With over 400 celebrity interviews and tons of pop culture nerdiness, Too Opinionated is a safe haven for your inner geek. Find us at meistercon.com or on YouTube under MeisterCon Pod. And please subscribe. It would really help us out. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I'm super excited today. I've got comedian Jackie Pirico with me. So welcome, Jackie.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Did I get it right?
Yes, you did. Yeah, nailed it.
Okay, good. Okay, good. You know how that goes when you're trying to get somebody's name right, and then you think you have it, but then you say it and you're like, uh-oh, did I say it right?
Oh yeah. And doing it live is an extra pressure.
Now, I was thrilled to have you on. I was telling you offline that I've been watching a lot of your comedy. You're hilarious.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You're funny, which is nice. Not that there's not other comedians that are funny, but not as many as you would like.
No, not as many as you would hope for, and especially when you're got to go back through the archives and mine through like old clips.
Yeah.
Even myself, I'm sitting here hoping, geez, I hope he didn't run into a couple of clips that I know are online. Ones that
now
like
I kind of hope I did.
It's tough out there. Like there's clips from when I was quite newer, like many years ago, and that I don't have control of taking off like YouTube. And oh God. So sometimes when people are like, oh, I'll look you up, I say, okay, if you see me wearing a striped shirt with shorter hair, don't watch that one.
Just keep moving.
Exactly.
Well, so let's start there, Jackie. Talk a little bit about what got you into comedy. Because that's a difficult road. What made you choose that path?
Yeah, it is. It is a difficult road. You're so right. It's sometimes I think of it as a fool's errand that no mentally well person would ever pursue.
Yeah.
But, the reason I got into, well, really what happened, the twist of fate was that I was going to university in Montreal, Quebec, which is like a French, predominantly French speaking, province in Canada. And I needed a part-time job during school, and the only English speaking, because my French is okay, but it's not great.
Right.
The only French-speaking serving job and waitressing job I could find was at an English comedy club, which was called, and is still there today. It's called the Comedy Nest. And so I was serving cocktails at this place every weekend for years, absorbing so much comedy, making friends with comedians. I became like really immersed in the scene until eventually I was just like, oh hell, get me up there. Let's see what I can do. Yeah. Yeah. So
what was the first time like? The first time when you first get out on stage, I'm assuming you probably had like 5 or 10 minutes of material, something like that.
Yeah, it was probably 5 tops, and it was like, well, it still is to this day, but it was an adrenaline rush, and it was like, and I'm sure I don't even know what my material was. It was so long ago now. I can't even tell you what I talked about. Probably nothing good. But I was lucky because I was surrounded by people I knew and comics that I'd known for a long time who were kind of like supporting me.
That's nice.
Whereas people who do that, people who get into it that just go up, I don't know what phrase I would use, just cold turkey or raw, like not knowing people in the room and not having like been around comedy. I admire that. That to me is like, I had a much softer landing. Yeah.
Well, how did it go? How did the first time go?
I think because of that and because I had so many like supporters in the room, it went better than it should have, considering how skilled I was not at the time. And it went well enough that it got me up again, and well enough that I got up again and again. But in the very beginning, I wasn't getting up a lot. So I tried it once, and then maybe I might have tried it, a couple months later. I wasn't taking it too seriously. And it was just very much like a novelty and kind of a hobby.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until about maybe 6 months to a year later where I decided, okay, I am going to try this for real. And that's when I started doing it like every night I could, getting up several times a week on stage. And so though when I started to take it more seriously, like I wasn't just haha, this is for fun. That's when it was scarier.
Well, yeah, because then you're kind of leaning on it to go somewhere.
Yeah, and my ego is actually on the line. I'm not protecting myself with, oh, this is just a lark. But yeah, like surprisingly well. It was a good scene in Montreal, and it was a good supportive scene that where I started. And then about a year after that, then I moved to Toronto because there's a bigger English speaking comedy community here where I'm at now. A bit more opportunity,
Yeah.
more shows. So yeah.
Is there a reason we can't do comedy earlier in the evening?
Amazing question. And I completely back this cause because the older I get, and I'm not saying I'm ancient, but the older I get, and I'm out of my kind of, very salad days kind of party era. And sometimes like I'm doing a show tonight that starts at 9:30 and I'm just like, "Oh my God."
No, I'm in bed by 9:30. I may not be asleep, but I'm in bed.
Yeah, and you're winding down. Absolutely. I know. But that's a funny thing too, because then when I do corporate comedy shows or certain comedy shows that might start earlier, especially if the sun is still out, there's also an element of like people aren't loosened up yet.
Yeah, I could see that because that's true. Earlier in the day, people probably aren't drinking.
Yeah.
They're still kind of reserved.
Yeah, we
I don't
need
know
a
about when
cushion.
the sun goes down, though. That's when everybody gets a little wild.
They get a little loose, but it's such a fine line now because the sun goes down. I've got maybe an hour and a half before I'm like, okay, I'm ready to put on some soft pants and be on the couch.
Yes. I mean, at least start at like 7 o'clock.
Yeah, 7 is actually great. My friend has a show every Friday at 7 p.m. It's a bit better in the winter because it's still dark out,
Yeah.
but it's such a beautiful time because then you have the whole evening ahead. You could do another show or you could just go home and look how accomplished I am.
Like I'm the same way. We just went to a concert the other night, and the main act didn't come out until after 9.
Oof.
I would like it to wrap up by 9.
Yes. Who did you see? Who did you go and see?
We went to see Haley Reinhardt.
Okay, I don't know her.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Postmodern Jukebox.
Oh, yes, I have heard of that.
Yeah. Well, she started, I think, with them, and now she's went. So amazing voice. You look her up.
Wow.
She's amazing voice. She just got done doing an album with Jeff Goldblum. Like he does jazz, and they did.
Cool.
She was really good. She was really good, but she didn't come out till after 9. So
Right.
as good. I was enjoying it. She had an incredible voice, but I was kind of yawning.
Yeah.
And we're sitting like second row. So I'm like, I can't be yawning. She's looking right here.
That's a valid concern. And it's nice that you are aware of that because there's a lot of times where people are in first couple of rows and I don't know, there's a disconnect that they don't really realize that they're able to be perceived by the act on stage. Yeah. And you see some people that are just arms crossed, bored looking, tired looking, and there could be a room full of people laughing hysterically at my jokes. But if there's one person that looks bored or tired, that's the only person I will look at.
Yeah, you want to turn them around.
Yes, it's all I want. It's like a classic kind of cat mentality of just being like drawn to the one person that doesn't like you.
I mean, do you like go and sit down right in front of them and just start throwing the comedy right at them?
No, I'm not that bold. Some people might, but I'm not that bold. I just have this inner dialogue of like being obsessed with them. So it's like my mouth is moving and I'm saying the same words, but in my head, I'm just like staring at them being like me, like me, like me. What can I do?
Isn't that funny that we're like that? You got thousands of people probably cracking up, having the best time. You got one bozo that doesn't really, for whatever reason, doesn't seem like he's enjoying himself. That's the only way.
It's so bizarre, but you know what? It's nice to know it's a universal kind of phenomenon.
I think it is. I was lucky enough to moderate for William Shatner when he came to town. He came and did his one-man show, and
wow,
They said it was an interview. You know, we had chairs up on stage and stuff, but it was really me just throwing him a couple questions, and then he talked for half an hour. You know,
Okay,
William
but still,
Shatner.
what
He
a
didn't.
thrill.
Yeah, it was the best. But it's the first time I've ever been on that side of the stage, and you're exactly right. If you look out, the audience just kind of melts together because
Right.
there's so many. But those
Uh-huh.
first two rows, you can see every one of them.
Yes.
And that's it. And I had and luckily half of those in those first two rows were either friends or family. But
Oh,
that's where
isn't that
my
nice?
focus was.
Yeah.
Anytime I got nervous, that's where I was looking because you know I was more comfortable with that. But when I looked out, there might as well not have been anybody out there because it just all kind of melded together, and it's kind of dark.
Right. Yeah, it's so funny. There's such a fine line too of looking at the audience. Like typically with stand up, you've got like a flood, like a real directional spotlight on
Yeah.
you. So really, you can only see the first couple of rows, and then the rest usually is shrouded in darkness,
Yep.
which is good. But also, yeah, and it's good for the anonymity of the crowd because if the house lights are too high and the audience can see one another, that also makes them more reserved from
Oh
laughing because
yeah,
they
it
don't want to
takes
be.
them out of it.
Yeah, it's such a there's so many scientific cogs and wheels, psychological cogs turning at any kind of show like that, you know? It's so wild. You get to learn a lot of those little things that affect a show.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What so where do you get your ideas for the comedy? Are you constantly just carrying around a notebook and writing stuff down when something strikes you funny? Or you know, what's your process?
A lot of comics do that, you know, and they're writing down and they're jotting things down as it comes during the day. But truly, my style, I'm more of like a live writer, and when I say that, I
Nice.
mean I'm lucky to have a lot of stage time from hosting shows and emceeing a lot, where I have a lot of time to stretch out and kind of
Yeah.
riff and talk about what happened to me in my day to day, and that's where I gauge, like for example, not too long ago I was doing a show where I had a lot of stage time to spread out, and I just happened to start talking about an incident with my father who broke his wrist from chasing a tire down a
Oh,
hill. And it was such a bizarre story, and the way I told it, it just like was quite explosive with the crowd in that moment. And it wasn't something I planned on talking about, but since I realized, oh, this works and people resonate with this and people like hearing about my bizarre father, etc., that then I kind of continue workshopping that on a next show and a next show, and then just gauging audience reaction and letting that shape and kind of, it's almost like a potter's wheel, and like I use the audience reaction to hone it down and crystallize the funny parts and drop this part and enhance this part. So I'm quite a live writer.
that part of comedy is very fascinating to me because comedy is the only it's the only entertainment piece that where they practice in front of a live audience. You know, most of the time you'd think, you know, it's not like if you go to a play, they're not out there just trying stuff out to see how
Right.
it goes and then fine tuning. You know, they kind of get that stuff done without an audience and then put it out there. But comedians, that's not how you work. You take it out
Yeah.
there, and it may be several weeks getting, you know, kind of getting the a tight set.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, just kind of whittling it down, and yeah, so I'm not overly like written, but then once I know what works and once I've kind of like workshopped a bit, then I will eventually get it down so that it's pretty much precisely down to the word, and that it
Yeah.
won't change much after that. So yeah, I'm more of a more improvisational in the beginning and then hone it that way. But sometimes some bizarre thing will happen and I'll think of a bit and write it down off stage. But yeah, I'd say I'm mostly like an on stage writer, as they say in the biz.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. Do you practice on your husband?
No, I don't. Because you know what's funny? Maybe some people could handle it, but I find the awkwardness of like, sometimes I'll tell them something, an idea I'm working on, but practicing a bit like in front of one person, to me, like it makes me want the floor to open up and me just to drop down into hell because it's so awkward, because then it's like one person is just like, uh-huh, uh-huh, and they feel so put on the spot to like, ha ha ha, laugh.
Yeah, yeah. If it, yeah, be, that's true. If it's one person and they don't like it, they'd still kind of try to laugh, I think.
Yeah, because they don't want you to go hurl yourself off a cliff. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, but then I will with my fellow, because my husband is not a comedian, but he loves comedy and he's like a big fan of the art form, and he's British and he knows lots of British comedy that I never knew before I met him, and he's more of a student of the art form than I am, I would say.
See, that's
Um,
a good relationship because you're both bringing different viewpoints and
yeah.
kind of stuff to it, so you expand each other's
It's true.
horizons a
It's
little
very
bit.
valuable. Yeah. But then I have certain close comedy friends that I'll like bounce ideas off of, usually like right before a show, like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And so that's nice to do too.
That seems dangerous because what if you're
Right
like,
before
oh
a
no, you
show?
don't want to do that one?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's risky.
Yeah.
Because then sometimes, or like I have friends that will do that to me. And I'm always like, oh yeah, like you know what? You just don't know until you try it. So even if I'm not like blown away in person, I'm just like, you just got to try it. That's the only way to know. But if you don't give, some of these guys that I work with are sensitive. So if you don't give the exact right reaction that they want, they're like, never mind, it sucks. I'm not doing it. We're
How
all
do you
very
do?
sensitive.
How do you do when like family comes to the show?
It's a funny thing that, because it's like sometimes it feels fine and you're like, oh, good. But then sometimes it feels like, oh man, this is just an extra layer of like
Stress.
something I don't want to think about. And you know what? Family and friends have a knack. It's like a supernatural phenomenon, in my opinion, of being available and choosing the worst shows to come to. Like, I'm actually free tonight. Like, what show are you doing? Oh, I'm doing the basement of a rec center for a bunch of like just the worst show ever. But know what? The more seasoned I get and the more confident I get in shows, um, the less I worry about that. Like
Yeah.
for example, next month I'm going to my hometown, which is just about an hour and a half away from Toronto, to do a couple of nights at this fun brewery show,
Nice.
and my mom and brother are gonna go, and I'm not really thinking much of it because they've seen me do really well. They've seen me bomb. They've seen me in all aspects of the spectrum
Yeah,
of
that's
success.
true. At some point, there's no point stressing over it because they've seen the good and the bad.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm happy to be in that place now in my career where look, my mom can see me bomb and I can still hold my head up.
So the new album is Splash Pad.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit because I hear it's getting some award buzz around it.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a nomination from the Canadian equivalent of the Grammy Awards, really. It's like recording artist, the Junos.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it was a thrill. I just got back. I didn't win, but I still feel in my heart like a winner just to have been there.
Well, that's the first step, right? You got to get nominated,
Yeah.
and then you build from there. So what's the Juno look like? Because you got the Oscar, it looks like a guy, but what's the Junos award
The
look
Juno kind of looks like a guy too. A less refined guy.
like?
Less
Okay.
limbs.
So
It's like,
like if it were me, I would I would be carrying that thing everywhere,
oh, me too. Oh,
and pretend like I forget. Like I'd probably have it hanging from the mirror in the car. I'm taking
right.
into restaurants. I'd be like, oh, I didn't realize I was carrying my Juno. Let
Oh,
me
shoot. Oh, this old thing? Oh, where's my head
let me
at?
move that so you can set my food down.
I would
I have so many of
absolutely.
these. I just don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, it does look kind of like a guy, the statue. It's like a head, like a round, kind of like a head, and then like a straight body, but kind of like with like a robe kind of twisted around. It's quite a nice looking statue. Boy, would I ever have loved to be able to show it to you right here.
Yeah, right, right. Did you have a special place ready for it just in case?
No, I think I'm too superstitious to think
Yeah.
that positively.
Well, how about a speech? Did you prepare just in case?
Yes, I prepared some like points to hit just in
Okay.
case.
Yeah.
But then when we were at the gala, like award ceremony, you really only had 30 seconds, and they really aggressively like play you off.
Oh,
They're not fooling around because it was like such a set time. So it would have only been able to be 30 seconds.
that
But I
actually
did.
would help me.
Yeah, but it took the stress off a little because then you're just like in and out,
I
baby.
mean, you
If you
get
can
up
let someone
there, you
along,
thank your mom and dad and your husband, you
yeah,
get off.
yeah, bye. Yeah, but I was confident enough to have something prepared in my head, but not confident enough to dust off any place on a shelf.
Yeah. Was there something different about Splash Pad, or was that just happened to be the newest album?
Yeah, that just happened to be. I have two albums out. The first one I released in 2019, which was called Dream Phone. And I did submit that back then to this same awards committee. Didn't get a nomination for that. I still am like proud of that album, but it didn't make it into the final
See, you're
nomination.
making progress.
Yeah, exactly. It's like maybe it's good it didn't, because then I can really track my progress. But Splash Pad, yeah, I think that it was a culmination of, you know, like my skills are more refined with the
Yeah.
second album that I recorded like 2 years later. I recorded in April of 2022. And yeah, I'm just like, um, workshopping the material, getting my legs more. And yeah, so I think that got me through the gauntlet of the jury and
Yeah.
into the, because
I mean,
I
it's a
think,
big deal to get nominated. You know, you
yeah,
beat out a lot of really good,
right.
albums and people to get that point. So
Yeah, I was
yeah,
like, I couldn't believe it. When I found out I was nominated, I was like, I almost didn't believe it. I was like, I almost felt like I was getting a prank or something. Like I couldn't let myself believe it for right away. Um, yeah, it
what do
was
you
like,
do once you okay, you get the notice that you've got this nomination, you got to go to the award ceremony, I'm assuming, with that. At that point, are you like, what am I going to wear?
oh,
Because that's how I'd be.
absolutely.
I'd be like,
That's
who
all
can
I
I
think
call to
about.
help me?
Yes. I think about what I'm gonna wear to like the grocery store. So
Yeah.
like this was a big one for me, but luckily I happen to collect vintage dresses.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
collect, I'm like a hoarder thrifting addict. And I have a closet full of beautiful vintage late 80s, early to mid 90s
I
like
love
formal
that.
dresses. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I pretty much, and I never wear them. Like I never
That's
have an
my
occasion
time
to wear
frame,
them.
80s and 90s.
Oh, love it.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
me too. And so I got to go shopping in my own closet essentially for these events. And the other great thing was that the JUNO Awards, really it's like a whole week. It's like a almost like a festival in a way that
I
there's
like
like an
that.
opening gala and like that there's all these different events. I got to walk two different red carpets, so I got to have two different looks. So I didn't have to like, I got to pick two dresses out of my own closet.
So the question is, if you ever go back to something like that, is that outfit just automatically out of the running? You can't
Yes,
rewear it.
I'd say. Yeah, for me anyways. If I was a guy, maybe I don't mean to be so gender normative,
No,
but
but
maybe
it's true.
I'd try to sneak in the same suit, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you buy a suit and it fits you right and it looks good, I'm not looking anywhere else. That thing, I'm
Yeah.
wearing it every time.
It's so absolutely true. My husband came with me for one of the events and he wore his wedding suit because it's like, don't fix it if it ain't broke.
That's right. That's
But then
right.
I think that if I was a man, I would be like, well, I just can't picture being outside of my own head. So I'd be like buying all these vintage suits, probably.
Well, now
But
that could be kind of awesome.
yeah, yeah, you could find
Something like
yourself
a
in
something double
suit.
breasted, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I was watching a lot of the looks from the academies just this past week, like the Oscars, and there's a lot of interesting things going on in men's formal wear these days.
Is there?
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of like, like drapey necklines and scarves and like kind of more feminine
Ooh.
um textiles on the red carpet for the men. I was like, okay, maybe there's a sea change here in men's
Hmm.
fashion.
I don't know if I like that change only for the fact that I was ever in a situation, then I couldn't just wear a regular suit. I'd have
You're
to
right. It's
fancy it up. So
alarming
that's
news.
stressful.
It is alarming news for the one suit kind of guys.
It does. We do seem to be kind of in that age where a lot of men, are very concerned with fashion, and
Yes.
they do just a terrific job, accessorizing, different look every day, every event, that type of stuff. And I think that's kind of newer. We didn't always have that going
It's
back.
true. Yeah. When you look back at like golden era Hollywood, like it was all kind of not a lot of breaking the mold
No, it's
there.
all the same.
Yeah. Although those guys looked real good too.
I know. I know. That's how I like it. Just the same uniform. I don't like to have to worry about it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
Of
hard on the
course,
wallet too.
yeah. I went a couple years ago. My wife and I did the keto diet, and we only
Oh
did it
yes.
for a couple of months, and it works. It's
Oh, it
miserable,
does.
but it works. But I probably dropped 30 pounds or something,
Wow.
and I was so skinny, but I felt so puny. I had no energy, but I was skinny. So I got to that point, and then of course I'm like, I'm going to be this size for the rest of my life.
Right.
So I bought a whole wardrobe, skinny clothes, and then 2020 hit, and I fought it for a little while, but we were home for so long.
Yes, you
Eventually,
cannot be doing, yeah, it was
yeah.
too much. It was too stressful. Grocery shopping was too difficult. And keto is like, it's so high maintenance.
No, we talked about redoing it, and we're like, I'd rather not do that again. But I've got a whole
Yes.
closet of clothes that are too small.
Of skinny clothes. Oh God. But it's
And those are so hard to get rid of because you're always like, I'll get back there.
I'll get back in. Yes, absolutely. I'm addicted to denim jeans as well. I buy all kinds of vintage jeans, and I've got piles according to ones that don't fit anymore because they're either I've got like a too big and a too small
Yes,
and
me
a
too.
just right column. Yeah.
The just right column is way smaller than the other two.
Yeah, mine too. My problem is that I'm 5 feet tall only. I'm very short.
Yeah.
But actually, the doctor recently told me that I'm 4'11", which I actually argued with her.
I would too. That's an important inch.
Yeah, I said, I've been allotted 5 feet and I'm not going to give it up so easily. But I guess I'm shrinking. And so just the smallest fluctuation, either up or down for me in weight, could be like 3 or 4 pounds, is so obvious on my frame that like it could be like I could eat a couple of Big Macs and that pile of jeans that don't fit is getting bigger. I gotta toe a line that's like this narrow.
I get the short person thing. I'm technically like 5'8" ish.
Okay.
But it was always 5'8.5", and that half was very important to me.
Yes.
I'm like, well, it's 8.5. It's 8.5. And it was one of those that, like, 5th grade, I was 5'2". 6th grade, I was 5'8". And then I never, and like there was that summer before school that I was like, I was tall for my age, just briefly. And then everybody passed me, and I never grew again.
Like we have the exact same. I'm talking down to the school year. In grade 6, when I was like 12, 11, 12, I was a monster. I was a giant. And then I stopped. Yeah. Man, those were the days, weren't they, for you and I?
I had 2 months that were glorious.
But you know what? You're tall compared to the men in my family. My brother and my dad are 5'6".
Oh, well.
And my mom is 5. Well, she's probably now 4'11" as well. Like I never had a chance in hell of being tall.
I come from a lot of shorter people too. I had no chance. Thankfully, like my son, my brother's sons, they all are the tallest walls ever.
Oh yeah?
Because it was my dad. He's 5'9". He was the tallest one ever. And then all of them have hit that 6 foot, 6'1" stuff. And I was like, good for you. We finally broke it.
Yeah, they really did shoot up. You know what? And it could be all the, I don't know, kids in this generation are more fortified by like
Yeah,
food,
maybe.
milk, or
I'm just thinking that a couple more generations, we might have a tall person in the family.
yeah, a certified tall person.
How about bell bottoms? Do you like bell bottoms?
I love bell bottoms,
Me
and
too.
especially growing up, like when they came back around in style when I was a
Yeah.
kid, obsessed. But they're also a source of deep trauma for me because they were always too long. And then if my
Oh,
mom hemmed them for me, then they lost the bell.
yeah. You don't want to lose the bell.
No, but I
I,
love the
I,
look of a
I
flare.
do too. I think that's because really, when you look back at the '80s, especially, the outfits were not great. They were
Right.
fun, but not great. But that
Yes.
and bell bottoms are more '70s, but '70s was kind of like that too. But that's one I wish those would just come back full style. There's you see them some. It's not
Yes.
they're not really like you don't see the jeans as much anymore, but the other
You're
type of
right. Yeah, you see some flares and and they're coming back a little bit in denim for like in women's styles I see, but I'd love to see some guys in some real hip hugging bell bottoms.
that's true because like growing up, I was watching Partridge Family, Brady Bunch, just like everybody
Yeah.
else. But that's what they wore. They had the bell bottoms on.
Yes. Even
I'd
the
wear
Dukes
some
of
bell
Hazzard
bottoms.
had some flares. The Dukes of Hazzard, the
Oh,
boys.
Dukes of Hazzard.
They had
Yeah,
some nice like denim
they
flares.
did. Dukes of Hazzard was surprisingly fashion forward.
Yes. Me and my brother were obsessed with Dukes of Hazzard. And then when we were in our teens, like my dad used to restore vintage muscle cars and he's like a real
Nice.
gearhead and he got a Charger and we were like, "Oh my God, it's like the Dukes."
Yeah, those Chargers are nice.
Yeah.
I've always wanted a muscle car, but I know I'm not a very good driver. So it's
Okay.
probably better that I don't have one. Like I've had
Yes.
opportunities in my life and I always end up talking myself out of it. I was like, it'll be great, but I know at some point I'll mess it up. So
That's very responsible of you. And from someone who also, I don't even have my driver's license. I'm like the real outcast of my family. They all drive, they all have powerful cars. And my brother's actually a cargo jet airline pilot who
oh
pilots
wow.
Boeing 757s. And I'm down here on the bus yelling to the driver because the back door won't open.
I was gonna say maybe you're just fancier than they are and you expect
Yeah,
to
you're
be
right. But no, then
comfort
you heard the
around.
bus thing.
But yeah,
You
you blew it.
spoke too soon.
So did I saw you're gonna do a little podcasting.
I am, yes. I'm very used to being a guest on a podcast because I know so many comedians and they
Yeah.
have many podcasts, and I love being a guest. But soon enough, I will become host. Well, we've already recorded quite a handful. We're
Oh,
just
that's good.
yeah, we're on the verge of releasing now. It's my friend Mark Little, who's a Canadian comedian and actor and animator. He's got like
Yeah.
cartoons and he's a real gem of our comedy scene. So it's him and I paired up to do like an advice, silly write-in advice column, kind of Dear
Oh, I
Abby
like
kind
that.
of spoof. Yeah.
That's fun. That's fun. So what's the name?
It's called How Can We Help? With a question mark.
I like that.
And really it's not really like how can we help, but it's like how can we help? Because we just are so
How
unqualified to give
desperate are
any
you to
advice.
come to us for help?
That is the real question.
Well, so
And
where did you come up with the question?
well, my friend Mark, who like we perform together a lot, like live, and sometimes we collaborate with stand up, and he just really likes hearing me kind of go off on a not a rant, but just kind of have an opinion on things, which is kind of perfect because too opinionated. And
You'll fit
and
right
he
in
was
here.
like, yeah, and he was just like, I want to hear, yeah, I want to see you have a platform where you can kind of, you know, get up on a bit of a soapbox and kind of,
Yeah.
you know, state your opinion on funny little the minutia of interpersonal life and weird problems with coworkers, problems with family, and we both love gossip too. And I know gossip is not it's kind of ugly, but
But
you know
it's
we love
fun.
It's fun. And we love digging our heels in with the gossip. So all the questions we get are anonymous. So we're not, doxing anyone or outing anyone's problems. But yeah, it's been really fun to dig into. I think we've banked about maybe 20 or so episodes so far, and we're just going to now unleash
Oh,
them onto the world like
yeah, that's
locusts.
smart. That's smart to kind of bank those. So, because I would love to have a larger, kind of in reserve type of shows, but it's difficult when you're having guests on because you don't want them to have to wait too long for their episode to come out.
That's true. Some of
So
the
I try
guests
to
that we
try
had
to
are
turn it
like
around.
yours.
Sometimes it takes a couple weeks, but I don't want to go past that. But things come up, things happen, and then you don't have a backlog to put up, if you get busy and can't do an interview.
Yeah, if you want to travel or whatever. But
Right.
yeah, with you, you're often interviewing people who have things going on. Right? Yeah, it's more topical in the moment.
More timely.
Yeah, yeah. So we don't have that. All these people's problems and our guests they'll probably have these problems for a while. Even if we give them advice.
I asked them for some help, and it's been months and they still haven't told me anything.
It has. It is kind of like waiting for an actual doctor or a therapist. Yeah.
Don't you think that? I don't know. Canada's got such a better health system than we do, but I think it's getting worse. Like it used to be, I'd call the doctor and you get in with either the same day or within a couple days. And then it was like a couple weeks. And now it's like it could be a couple months before you get in.
That is so crazy. That's scary because
I was like, what if I got a problem right now?
Right. Right. We can't be scheduling in our life-threatening ailments.
Yeah, I guess I'm dealing with this for, till May or whatever.
Yes. But you know what? Canada is not, it seems like we have a better system with our universal healthcare, but there's such a shortage of doctors and long waiting lists. It's, you know what? Anywhere you go, we're in hell.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. You get aggravated at doctors for overbooking and you always have to wait and stuff. But what's the alternative? Because there's not enough doctors. They're trying to see as many people as they can.
Right.
I don't know what the answer is. I guess the answer is figure out a way to get more doctors.
Yeah, maybe they should make it less rigid to become a doctor. Maybe they should have sort of kind of hobbyist doctors. Like you could come to me and I could take a look at it and be like, and then Google it for you.
Yeah, they can only prescribe the mild stuff.
Yeah, just over the counter. I've got a little drawer.
Counter. Maybe you let them have steroids and penicillin or something.
Yeah, yes.
Nothing that would actually hurt somebody if they.
Yeah, just the low level kind of casual drugs.
I got a sore throat. Take this, that type.
Yes. Oh, I would love. That's the thing with antibiotics. It's so annoying because I know that you have to we have to be careful that we don't become resistant to antibiotics. But it's so annoying when you have strep throat or something like that, and you need them. I know what I need.
I know.
Go through the motions.
You got to go through the motions. You got to act sicker than you actually feel.
Yes.
The question I've gotten is, how long have you had these symptoms? 10 days.
Yeah.
Because, it's been a day. But if you tell them it's been a day, they're like, well, let's just see how it goes.
Wait it out. We'll see.
Call me in a week. If you still have it, I'll prescribe something. So I'll just go in and I'll be like, oh, no, it's been a couple of weeks. I can't get rid of it. Good for you. Yeah.
I support this kind of fibbing, and it helps us hone our acting skills as well.
Well, I'll tell you another trick. They always give you the steroid treatment, right? Because the steroids are supposed to help you until the antibiotic kicks in.
Right.
Yeah. I always shave a couple of those off to set aside. Because you never know when those come in handy.
Yes.
You get a skin rash or something like that. And if you have a steroid or something, helps you. Sometimes it gets rid of it.
Right. And then it saves you the trip.
Saves you a trip. So I always keep a couple of those.
Yeah. You know what? I would trust you with that kind of savviness in a situation like, an end of days kind of The Last of Us situation. I'd be knocking on your door. You got to use those steroids?
Yeah. You need a steroid? I got one penicillin left. Been saving it.
Really handy friend to have.
Yeah, if we ever end up in an apocalypse, I'm not going to last. And it
No.
won't be for lack of trying. I just know that there is no possible way that I don't make some stupid mistake and get
Oh, absolutely. Me too. Me too. Well, this is why I don't even have my driver's license, because I think that if I'm out on the road, knowing me, I'm just worried that I would just be like not looking or make some split second dumb mistake.
That's all it takes.
It's too high stakes for me. But my
I
poor
wrecked I
husband
wrecked
is
a
like
car
driving me
in
everywhere.
I think I was probably a senior in high school. I bought it. Let me tell you, this is a sad story, but I'll tell it quick.
Okay.
So my family was going to the beach for vacation, my brother and my parents. But I had just gotten a job in a comic book store. And I
Oh,
was a big comic book guy. So I was like, well, I can't go. I just started this job. Well, I got the job, immediately bought a car for $1,000, 78 Malibu, $1,000.
ooh,
So I had the car, so I stayed home. First time I'd probably been home by myself. I was so excited, they're at the
yeah.
beach. Well, they left within hours. I had wrecked the car.
No.
Yes, yes. I know what happened. Like I was slowing down, coming up to a stoplight, and I dropped a cassette.
Oh,
And I
God.
reached down to grab it and just plowed right into the back of the car. Well, my car was only worth $1,000, so it
Right.
didn't do a ton of damage, but it was enough to total it.
Oh,
Well, so
that
to
is
make it worse, this story it gets worse. So I didn't have a car immediately. You know, they go down to the beach and they're filming this movie called Shag, and it starred Phoebe Cates, who I was just a
oh,
huge fan of. Well,
of course.
they all three got in the movie.
Oh,
Just happened to be in the right place at right time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the worst week of my
this is horrible. That every boy's biggest crush of all time.
right.
And you're back there dropping a cassette and totaling your brand new car.
Yes. And I could have been there.
Oh,
Well, and like my brother, he had he got to walk, across the street, and Phoebe Cates, Bridget Fonda are sitting in a car, and he crosses in front of the car, and that stuff.
wow.
And I was like, you got to be kidding.
You know what? It's things like that that give you grit. That kind of adversity that gave you grit moving on in life, to
That must have been it.
Yeah. But the
That's
cassette thing is so funny. Like, it's so of the time
right.
to fumble a cassette.
I just dropped it. I'm slowing down. I wasn't going very fast. I just
Yeah.
reached down, probably took my foot off the
Oh,
brake
God.
for a
Do you remember
second.
what cassette it was? Do you remember what cassette?
I do. Actually,
Wow.
it was Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight, or
Oh,
whatever the album was that had In the Air
yeah. Oh,
on.
I love it. I love that it was that. You just wanted to hear that drum fill.
Well, that's it, because you roll the windows down, and that was the big thing to do. You'd kind of cruise the parking lots and stuff,
Yes.
and have your music playing too loud, and you felt cool. That song made you
Yeah,
feel cool.
absolutely. It's nothing cooler.
Yeah, terrible.
Damn,
Terrible.
I love
I
that
wanted
song.
to ask you. Did you do a quiz show?
Oh yeah, I recently did a fun news quiz show. It's big up here on the radio. It's called Because News.
Yeah. What
Uh,
is that?
it's very fun. It's this guy Gavin Crawford, who's kind of a real mainstay in Canadian entertainment. He's like a comedian, actor. He's like a really good impersonator and
Oh
impressionist.
yeah.
And he has this news quiz show it's like a panel show. So it's like the closest thing right now that we kind of have to those like British fun panel shows.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's just on the radio, and it's like, yeah, we just go through kind of the news headlines of the day, and he kind of quizzes us about, like, for example, maybe he'll name like a new policy that the government is naming. Like when I was on, it was talking about like how the government wants to ban TikTok off
Right.
of the government employees' phones. So yeah, I'm just kind of like shooting the breeze and riffing about all kinds of stuff like that. It's been on the air forever, and it was my first time as a guest, so that was really fun.
Yeah. How did you do?
I think I did well. I think I kept my head above water for a rookie, for a first time panelist. And you know what? I feel bad. I should be more plugged into the news than I am. Like,
It's
sometimes I
kind
just
of depressing though.
it's so depressing, and I kind of have my head in. I'm kind of an ostrich in that way. I've just got my head in the sand in certain respects, um, to as a self preservation thing.
Yeah.
But it kind of worked out for me with the news quiz because I really didn't know the answers to some things. Genuinely didn't have to pretend, and it's fun to kind of make up and like because the whole point of it is to you don't really want to get it right. You want to like kind of have joke answers. So
Right.
it's like lucky for them, that's all I had.
That's awesome. That's actually sounds a lot of fun. Sounds like a
Yeah,
lot of
it's fun
fun.
times.
Have you ever considered acting?
Yes, I actually have. I've done some acting.
Okay.
I what have I've been in actually, it's funny. I know that maybe a couple years ago you interviewed Kara G from The Expanse.
Oh, love Kara G.
Yes. So I actually in 2016 traveled with her to Colombia, where she was starring in a movie called Sundowners. And I
Yes.
was doing like a supporting role. I was playing her bridesmaid or her sister. I was playing in that.
I've seen that movie
I was in
with
that.
that. Yeah,
I was
it's just been a while. It probably
yeah,
came
yeah.
out what 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And I was her, I played her crazy sister. The part was like, it was a principal role, but I didn't have like tons of scenes, but I loved it. I've done some voice acting for some animation, some kids cartoons.
That's fun.
Oh, that's my true, like, aside from comedy, that's my second
Yeah.
runner-up dream. And
That's a hard one to get into, but once
it
you're
really
in, you're
is.
kind of in.
That's exactly it. So I've got my toe in, and they're still kind of trying to close the door on my foot, but I've got my toe in a little bit, and it's so much fun to do that. And I recently had a very small role on a sitcom here called Children Ruin Everything. It does air on Roku in the States. Is that Roku,
Yeah,
right? Do you
yeah,
know
yeah.
that?
I've got a Roku. I need to look that one up. But it seemed
Yeah,
like when I saw that, it seemed familiar to me, but I couldn't place it. But I wonder
right.
if I've seen it, because Roku kind of advertises their stuff. I
Yeah,
wonder if
yeah.
I've seen it being advertised. So yeah, I need to look that one up.
Yeah, and then I think on Roku as well, is it Roku that like a cartoon of my friend Mark Little, who I'm doing the podcast with. It's called Gary and His Demons. Or no, sorry.
Yes.
Or is that
I,
on Roku?
I don't think it's on Roku, but I've
Or
seen that
Hulu
one.
maybe.
Yeah, I
Something.
think it's Hulu. I think it's Hulu.
Yeah, so I've done some voice stuff in that, and yeah, I hope moving forward I get to do more acting because I just love. I'm not trained. I'm not trained at all, but every role that I've ever gotten is just because of my stand up, like casting people, or I've done some commercial work here and there too, but it's mostly because of my stand up. So I try my best to translate that and not disappoint the people who booked me for based on my
When can we expect like the stand up special?
Oh yeah, there's I've got a couple that are already available on like well it's like on CTV or on
Yes.
Crave Canada from Just for Laughs in like 2016 and 2019, but there's a new one coming out that I taped last spring in Vancouver for Just for Laughs Northwest. It's called The New Wave of Stand Up. And that's coming out on CBC Gem on March 24th. So that's fun.
Well, that is fun. The nice thing with, thankfully, because of the streamers, we're getting a lot of those out of country shows now, like CTV. I can get now through the app. I can
Oh,
put in the
that's
app
great.
where even a year ago I couldn't. We didn't have access to that, but we have that now.
Oh,
And that's
good.
kind
Yeah,
of
it's
nice. You
true.
get because it's not like all the good shows are made in America. There's good shows all over the place. So it's
Yeah.
nice to get those kind of coming in now.
Yeah, it's true. It's more of a yeah, global small
Yes.
global community of entertainment
I
now. It's
mean,
true. There's no
half of Netflix
borders.
shows are from out of country.
It's true. But I do get sometimes disappointed when Netflix should say more clearly when it's going to have weird English dubbing over it.
Yes, agree. I
I'd
hate the
rather watch
dubbing.
subtitles than
Me
dub.
too.
Yes.
It
And
doesn't match
sometimes
the
you
mouth.
don't
It's
know.
distracting.
Yes. And then, of course, that's all I'm staring at then is the mouth.
I know those shows, I almost have to distract myself with my phone because I can't stand. Otherwise, I'm just focused on their face and or
Right.
their mouth. And that's
Yeah.
no good. I'd
And it's
much
really
rather just
frustrating.
talk it in your own language and
And I'll read.
translate it for me. I'll read it.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes I have the subtitles on even for like English shows because I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old. I am getting old because I hear myself going, "What did he say?"
Yeah, I do that too. I do that too because the scenes where they're like low talking and
Yes.
you're like, what did they say? So you rewind it and turn it up and you're still like, still don't
Yeah.
know.
So I'm very used to subtitles, but it's very frustrating with these dubbed ones because they often the production value is so good and they like look so
Mhm.
interesting. It's like shows that are right up our alley because Netflix knows our alley.
Yeah, that's
And then
right.
yeah, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
oh well,
And you're
we're
like, what?
spoiled.
What? Yeah, I know. I know. We're big babies.
Like,
Growing
people
up,
fix their mouths.
growing up, I had 3 channels. You know,
Same. Yeah, I know. Haven't we come a long way?
now we've got like an endless supply of things to watch, and we're still like, it's not good enough.
Yeah. Like nothing's on. I can't find anything on Netflix. Oh God, I know.
Well, Jackie, thank you so much. This has been awesome. You got to
It
come
has been
back.
such a pleasure.
Yeah, you got to come back. Maybe when you get this next special out or next album out, you got to come back and talk some more.
Yes, I would absolutely love to.
Yeah, that would be terrific. I think you're so funny. Like
Thank
it's
you so
rare.
much.
I love to laugh, but it's most of the time, it's just, like everybody, you smile or you chuckle or something, but you don't actually laughing doesn't happen that often. But I
Right.
watched some of your stuff. My wife and I were watching together and we were cracking. We thought it
Oh
was
my
just
gosh, that makes my day to hear. I love hearing that. And you know what? Just talking to you for this past while, I can tell you like to laugh. Those are my favorite people that just love to actually go, ah, ha, ha.
Oh yeah, I love to laugh. And I have this thing that kind of runs through the men in my family where we will laugh so hard that we'll pass out.
I love it. That sounds like a liability in a live show setting. But hey, look, I'll have the paramedics right outside for you waiting.
My dad is the worst about that. And my when he first asked my mother out, the first time that they went out, he took her to a movie. It's called the let's see, Hallelujah Trail. It's a western.
Okay.
It is very funny. It's very funny. But he got tickled and laughed so hard that he passed out and just kind of rolled down the aisle.
Oh my
That first
God.
date, first date, and somehow they stayed together.
You stuck
And
with
then
them.
when I was young and I was little, but I was young, old enough to remember kind of it happened. But he used to coach basketball, and the other coaches in the county would have a poker game one night a week, but they play it like a fire department or something. And he
Okay.
went to play, and we got the call, be like, you need to come get your dad. And I was like, what? My mom was like, well, is he okay? He's like, he's fine. He got tickled and passed out and banged his head on the table.
I love the like official medical diagnosis. He got tickled.
He got tickled. Because I guess we just stopped breathing. Because I've
So
never
funny.
actually passed out, but I've been close.
But like being close, yeah, you're like, yeah, you're not breathing, you're restricting oxygen to your brain. That's so funny. I love these guys. I love the family.
So a couple of things, Jackie, before we wrap.
Yes.
Anything else you're working on that we can keep an eye out?
Oh, let's see. I've got this is very like in the infancy of it, but I'm starting to pair up with my friend Jose Lorenzo, who's like a filmmaker here, and we want to do a project that would be some kind of narrative like web series project addressing like the real estate craziness in Toronto. I probably shouldn't even be saying this because it's an idea in its infancy, but I'm teaming up with him because I want to get more into writing as well. So
Yeah.
so that's a long way off, but it's nice to have partnerships with all these creative
Oh
people.
yeah,
So
that's
that's in
exciting.
the cooker, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so last thing, where
Mhm.
can we find you on social media? Where can we find your albums on social media?
Oh, yes. So you can find my album Splashpad really anywhere on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes. You can buy it on Bandcamp if you search Jackie Pirico
Okay.
Bandcamp, Splashpad. And on my social media, just at Jackie Pirico. Nothing fancy, no bells and
Well, you
whistles.
said it's the only one. So,
I'm the only Pirico. So my Instagram is like the best way to like find out about shows and upcoming projects. So it's just at Jackie Pirico.
oh, very nice. Very nice. Well, thank you so
Yes.
much. And you got to come back. This has been
I
great.
shall for sure. I would love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Okay, hold on one second. I love having comedians on the show. Jackie Pirico, if you haven't listened to her comedy, she's really, really funny. Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm a comedy snob a little bit. I like the really good comedians, and she's one of them. So do yourself a favor, look up Splash Pad and listen to that. She's just terrific. I hope you enjoyed that. I really had a nice time. And just so nice. She's so nice, and I'm sure that she's a really good actress as well. That doesn't surprise me that she's been dabbling some in acting. She's got the right personality for it, I think. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again this week with us. We definitely don't take that for granted. Appreciate it so much. If you're finding this for the first time and you'd like to support us, we could definitely use the help. Couple easy ways you can do that. You can find us on YouTube under MeisterCon Pod. And if you watch, please hit subscribe. That would really help us out. It's free. If you're listening, wherever you listen to your podcast at or from, whatever application you're using, just subscribe there. That'll help us as well. We're getting ready to release our 550th episode, if you can believe it. You can find all of those audio and video on our website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there. If we're doing anything in studio, if we're going on the location, if we're covering a convention, whatever we got going on, that'll be on the website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.